Do you think people in prison serving sentences should be able to vote?
Yeah, of course.
Hi guys, I'm here in New York City at Washington Square Park. This is right next to the NYU campus, and I'm out talking to people about Bernie Sanders and trying to get a sense if people are still feeling the burn. Bernie Sanders is a democratic socialist, but at the same time has a net worth of approximately $2 million, 3 different homes, all roughly around $500,000 each. And he has been in the news lately for pushing the right to vote for people incarcerated in prison right now. So let's go see what people think about that. Do you personally think he's living up to his socialist views?
It depends. I haven't really looked into it. But so far what I see from him, I don't see nothing that would not make me think that he's not. You know, I don't feel like he's shady. But at the end of the day, we would have to look and see his income, how did he fund these houses, how did he purchase them, release them tax breaks.
He did actually pay lower than average in taxes in 2014.
Okay.
Which I know some people aren't happy about. How do you feel about that?
See, that's something...
Yeah, that doesn't align. As much as I love him, that doesn't align with his own platform, so I don't necessarily agree with that going on.
When the news came out about all his properties, and it is a bit of a conundrum supporting a candidate that may not live through his promises, but I guess that no, he shouldn't have to give up any of his homes or anything like that just because he supports that idea. I mean, we have many billionaires that support philanthropic ideals, and none of them had to give away their things for that.
I'm okay with him being rich or having more money than the average Joe that is walking across the park right now. More money than me. I'm okay with him having money. What I wouldn't be okay with is if he is putting in place systems where like he will get richer or more powerful, which he's not. He's for the working class. He's for people like me, like you probably, to have more power and have more money and hold the rich people accountable.
There's also something about being like radically transparent about that wealth, which to be honest I don't know if he like lives up to that, but I think like part of the progression of a successful, if we can possibly have a socialist president, which I mean, good on us if we can, but like that's a challenge that we have yet to see if that will succeed.
He's also recently been pushing the idea of letting people in prisons to vote. So, you know, the right to vote for all people, even if they are in prison at the moment. How do you feel about that? Do you think people that are in prison should vote?
Now that's a very complicated issue. I feel like if you're in prison for like any type of crime with mental issues, I feel like that you shouldn't be able to vote based on that, like psychiatric issues, and maybe some heavier penalties. But especially nowadays in the US, where we have one of the highest incarceration rates for just basic a bunch of crimes, even smaller possession crimes, I do feel like having everyone vote is integral to democracy, even if they're incarcerated. And in many states there's so many different restrictions on who should vote that I feel like having a federal everyone can do that, everyone can vote would be better. So
do you think like in that case, do you think like people like psychopaths, like murderers, pedophiles, like that degree, do you think they should be able to vote?
Yeah, that's the hardest line to draw, because once you start drawing for one, then that's his biggest thing, right? Once you start drawing a line for one group, then all the lines for all the other groups become blurred.
Yeah, I believe they should have the right to vote. They're basically, whether or not they'll still be in prison for life or not, they're still determining the destiny of their peers, themselves, if they're gonna get out. And it's their own future, so they should have a say.
Yes, under his plan or what he wants, it would allow people like sexual assault sexual assaulters, and the worst of terrorists, the worst of all people to have the right to vote. But what he really cares about, which is a vast majority of people who are non-violent drug offenders. I think we could agree that people like those, they absolutely shouldn't lose their right to vote just because they did a non-violent crime with drugs.
Do you think people in prison serving sentences should be able to vote?
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's like a lot of voting restrictions already that exist, not just with people who are incarcerated, but also when we're looking at the numbers of people who are black or brown people who are incarcerated at very high rates. There's systemic racism going on in what our voting rights are at the moment, but also just like looking at like the structure of how like voting works in the US. Like it's not a holiday. Like we're also discriminating against low-income people who aren't able to get to the polls, or mothers who are watching children. So there's like a lot of restructuring that needs to be done around voting, but I think everybody needs an opportunity to vote, including incarcerated people.
And when we have this system that's oppressing people like that, excluding them from having a say in that system and having a voice, that keeps them entrenched in that system and they can't do anything about it. So I think it's a great step. And it's also, reminding us that these are human people. Like it's not, I don't know. Yeah.
So with based on that, would you guys be cool like murderers and pedophiles that are serving right now? They should have the right to vote.
Well, I think that's. To be honest,
Yeah.
I think when you say it that way, it doesn't sound great, but it's also putting them in context.
That's diminishing a person to
right,
a
and
crime.
it's also right, and that no
yeah.
person is subject to change, and obviously that's an optimistic way of looking at people. But I'd rather that, and including the people who have been wrongfully charged or who are charged based on a system of oppression, than eliminating that whole population of people based on a small selection of them. So,
Yeah.
I think that But
Awesome.
when you say murderers and pedophiles, I'm
I'm
like,
like, voting is a human right,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It really, that's
Especially
what it
if we're
comes
trying
down
to say
it.
we're in a democracy.
Yeah.
Like, if we're excluding a whole population of people, it's not.
Yeah.
So it seems like most people don't really care how much money Bernie has as long as he's pushing his socialist agenda, which I'm not sure how that adds up, but it looks like he's still got a good amount of support here in New York, and it looks like New Yorkers are fine with murderers and pedophiles voting too. So there you go. For the Rebel.media, I'm Jessica Swietoniowski. If you like that video and want to see more from me and the rest of the Rebel team, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another video. Also, make sure to check out the Rebel Media app on the App Store.